You could prepare every meal, organize every special moment, send every caring morning message, and completely adjust your life around them, yet they may still create distance. Not because you failed, not because you were not valuable enough, but because there is something deeply programmed inside them that even they may struggle to recognize. And today, we are going to uncover what is really happening beneath the surface. Because once you understand what an avoidant person is truly attached to, every confusing moment will start to connect. Every sudden withdrawal, every emotional wall, every time they came close and then stepped back, every connection that almost became something more will finally become easier to understand. If you have ever experienced this kind of confusing behavior, comment the word loyal below. And if you want to understand human behavior beyond the obvious, subscribe, because here we look deeper. We do not focus on quick answers or simple explanations. We explore the hidden patterns that shape people. Let me begin with something that may be difficult to accept. An avoidant person often does not experience love in the same way you experience it. This does not mean they are heartless. It does not mean they cannot care. It does not mean they are incapable of having deep feelings. It simply means their emotional system works differently. And when you understand this difference, not just with your mind, but with your emotions, you stop exhausting yourself trying to prove your worth to someone who is responding from a completely different internal world. Because many people spend months or even years asking themselves the same questions. What should I do differently? How can I make them stay? How can I make them trust me? How can I finally make them choose me? They try becoming less emotional. They try giving more attention. They try stepping back. They try chasing harder. They try becoming unavailable. They try changing who they are just to create a reaction. But nothing creates a permanent change. The avoidant person may move closer for a short time. They may share more. They may promise things. They may show moments of warmth that make you believe everything is finally changing. But then, without warning, something shifts. Something you cannot see begins happening inside them. They become distant again. They become harder to reach. And suddenly you are left analyzing every conversation, every message, every moment, wondering what mistake you made. But many times the answer is simple. You did not create the distance. The distance was already part of the pattern. The real question is not why you were not enough. The real question is what they are protecting. Because an avoidant person is often loyal to something much stronger than their desire for connection. They are loyal to their sense of emotional safety, their own feeling of protection, their own ability to stay in control. And this is where many people misunderstand them. They assume the avoidant is rejecting them personally. They assume they are choosing someone else, something else, or freedom over the relationship because they do not care enough. But the deeper truth is that they are often reacting to an internal alarm system. They are trying to preserve a feeling of safety that has become extremely important to them. When most people hear the word safety, they imagine comfort, closeness, trust, and emotional connection. They imagine a relationship where two people can open their hearts, share their fears, and feel accepted. But for someone with avoidant patterns, safety can mean something completely different. Safety may feel like having space. Safety may feel like being independent. Safety may feel like knowing they can handle everything alone without depending too much on another person. Their comfort comes from feeling emotionally self-sufficient. They feel calmer when they believe they are in control of their own feelings and their own world. And sometimes even a loving relationship can feel threatening if it creates emotions they do not know how to manage. This is the part that changes everything. An avoidant person is not always walking away because they found someone better. They are not always choosing their interests instead of you. They are not necessarily rejecting commitment because they do not believe in love. Many times they are trying to protect the one thing they trust the most, their independence and emotional control. And until they understand that closeness does not always mean losing themselves, they may continue repeating the same cycle. They may want connection and fear it at the same time. They may miss someone and still create distance. They may care deeply and still struggle to show it. And that is why their behavior can feel so confusing. The feelings may exist, but the ability to remain emotionally present may be limited by the fears they carry inside. And this is where the story becomes much deeper than what appears on the surface. Because the next thing you need to understand is what happens inside an avoidant person's mind when love starts feeling too close. They are choosing those things because those things feel predictable and secure to them. And you, as someone who desires closeness, emotional honesty, and a real connection, can represent the very thing their inner system struggles to handle. Not because there is something wrong with you, not because you are too much, not because your love is a problem, but because deep emotional closeness itself can activate fear inside them. Real intimacy can feel like a danger signal to their nervous system. Think about that for a moment. The very thing you are offering with love and care is the same thing their mind may interpret as something risky. That is the challenge you are facing. And the difficult truth is this: you cannot love someone out of a fear response. You cannot prepare enough meals, send enough sweet messages, or create enough perfect moments to make someone instantly stop feeling threatened by emotional closeness. And this is the painful contradiction of loving someone with avoidant patterns. The more love you offer, the more overwhelmed they may feel. The more consistently you show up, the more they may feel the need to step away. The more you try to reduce the distance, the more they may create space. It is not necessarily because they do not care, but it can still hurt deeply. And that painful experience of giving your best while watching someone move away is what leaves many people feeling confused, rejected, and exhausted. But we need to go deeper than the behavior itself, because if you only understand what they do, you will stay trapped in the confusion. You have to understand where the pattern comes from. The root is where the real understanding begins. Avoidant attachment does not appear out of nowhere. It is not simply a personality defect. It is not something someone chooses because they want to make relationships difficult. It is often a learned emotional survival strategy, a pattern that can develop early in life when a person's emotional needs are repeatedly ignored, minimized, misunderstood, or not safely received. Imagine a child who reaches out for comfort and receives no response. A child who feels sadness and is told to hide it. A child who wants reassurance but learns that showing emotions creates discomfort or rejection. A child who searches for connection but repeatedly experiences emotional distance. What does that child begin to believe? They start learning that needing others can lead to pain. They start believing that vulnerability is dangerous. They begin to understand that depending on someone emotionally may end in disappointment. So their mind creates a solution: need less, feel less, expect less. Become independent. Become so emotionally self-reliant that no one has the power to hurt them. And in that original environment, this strategy can actually protect them. It helps them survive moments when they do not have the emotional support they need. It gives them a sense of control when everything else feels uncertain. It allows them to keep moving forward. The problem is that the child eventually grows up, but the survival strategy remains. The situation changes, but the internal programming stays active. Now you have an adult who has spent years teaching themselves that emotional closeness comes with risk. Someone who may deeply desire connection, but also feel alarm when connection becomes real. Then they meet someone caring, someone supportive, someone who makes them feel understood. And for a while it feels amazing, because a part of them does want love. A part of them wants to be known. A part of them wants to stop feeling alone. They are not emotionless. They are not without needs. They are human beings who also want connection. But as the relationship becomes deeper, something inside them begins to react. The closer the bond becomes, the louder the internal warning becomes. And that warning is not always based on reality. It does not always respond to evidence. It does not always respond to how much love you give. It responds to what their nervous system has learned to recognize as danger. And for someone with strong avoidant patterns, emotional closeness can become that danger signal. So what happens next? They follow the pattern they have relied on for years. They create distance. They become harder to reach. They focus on other responsibilities. They emotionally shut down. They begin noticing problems that did not seem important before. They start questioning the relationship. They may convince themselves that something is wrong, that the timing is not right, that they are not ready, or that the connection is missing something. And this is an important point to understand. When they say these things, they may genuinely believe them in that moment. They are not always pretending. Their mind has created a story that makes pulling away feel like the safest and most reasonable decision. Their brain is trying to protect them using the only method it knows. It is searching for distance because distance feels familiar. It is trying to prevent emotional pain before that pain can happen. So when an avoidant person pulls away, it is not always because they are intentionally trying to manipulate you. It is not always because they want to punish you. It is often because they are following a deeply established emotional pattern. They are being loyal to their protection system. And that protection system was created long before you entered their life. It was built during moments when they were young, vulnerable, and trying to make sense of emotions they could not control. That system does not automatically consider your efforts. It does not measure the love you have given. It does not calculate the beautiful memories you created together. It simply reacts based on what it believes will keep them safe. Now, this is where many people make a painful mistake. And I want you to really pay attention here because this misunderstanding can keep someone stuck for years. When people discover avoidant attachment, they often use that knowledge as a reason to keep chasing. They think, now I understand why they act this way. Now I know their wounds. So I need to be more patient. I need to give more understanding. I need to offer more space. I need to love them in the perfect way. I just need to stay long enough until they finally feel safe with me. And on the surface, this can sound caring. It can sound like unconditional love. It can feel like the mature and compassionate choice. But there is something important you need to recognize. Understanding someone does not mean carrying the entire relationship alone. Compassion does not mean abandoning yourself. Supporting someone does not mean sacrificing your own emotional needs while waiting for them to change. Because when all the responsibility falls on one person, that is no longer a balanced connection. That becomes one person constantly proving their worth while the other person remains protected behind their walls. And that is where we need to look even deeper. Because the next truth is about the difference between loving someone and losing yourself while trying to save them. An avoidant person can absolutely grow and change. People with avoidant attachment patterns are not damaged beyond healing. They are not permanently unable to experience love, closeness, or a healthy relationship. But growth only happens when they are willing to participate in that growth themselves. Real change requires real effort, not simply allowing someone to love them, not just staying in a relationship while avoiding the deeper issues. It requires intentional self-work, honest reflection, and the courage to face the patterns they have carried for years. It can involve therapy, emotional awareness, learning new ways to communicate, and taking responsibility for the impact their behavior has on others. Because here is what does not create change: waiting endlessly for them. Changing yourself to become easier to love, making yourself smaller, ignoring your own needs, accepting painful behavior simply because you understand where it comes from. Understanding someone's wounds does not mean you have to carry those wounds for them. Knowing why someone struggles to connect does not mean you have to accept being disconnected. These are two completely different things, and many people confuse them. They believe that because they finally understand the reason behind the avoidance, they now have the responsibility to stay and heal that person through endless patience. But that is not how healing works. You cannot repair someone else's emotional wounds by loving harder. You cannot force someone into security through your own sacrifice. Love can create a safe environment, but love alone cannot rewrite years of emotional programming. The person who carries the wound has to decide that they want to heal it. What actually creates transformation in someone with avoidant patterns is not having a partner who keeps proving their loyalty. It is the avoidant person choosing to face themselves. It is them recognizing their patterns, accepting responsibility, and consistently doing the difficult work required to create change. It is not about someone waiting long enough until they finally become ready. It is about them actively becoming ready. And this brings us to one of the most important parts of this entire conversation, the push and pull cycle. Because if you have ever been connected to someone with avoidant tendencies, you probably know exactly what this feels like. They create distance. Suddenly the warmth disappears, the communication changes, the closeness you felt starts fading, and then your mind begins searching for answers. You wonder what happened. You wonder what you did wrong. You feel the fear of losing the connection, and that fear pushes you to move closer. You reach out more, you try harder, you become more available. You start giving more because you believe maybe more love will bring them back. And then something happens. Sometimes they remain distant and you find yourself trapped in anxiety, waiting for a response, searching for signs and trying to understand the silence. Other times they return. They become warmer again. They show affection. They act like the connection is back. And in that moment, the relief feels powerful. After experiencing the fear of losing them, having them close again can feel overwhelming in the best possible way. It feels like everything is finally okay. It feels like you have been chosen again. But then, after some time, the same pattern begins. They move away again. The emotional distance returns, and the cycle continues. This is what makes this dynamic so difficult to leave. The unpredictable moments of connection create powerful emotional attachment. The highs feel incredibly intense because they come after periods of uncertainty and pain. Your mind begins waiting for the next moment of closeness. Small gestures start feeling enormous. A simple message can change your entire mood. A small sign of affection can feel like a major victory. Over time, without even realizing it, your entire emotional world can begin revolving around them. Your happiness depends on how they respond. Your confidence rises when they are close and falls when they create distance. Your day becomes shaped by whether they contacted you or stayed silent. Meanwhile, the other person may receive exactly what their emotional system is comfortable with: connection when they desire it, and distance when they feel overwhelmed. They control how close or far the relationship feels, and you remain constantly adjusting yourself to match their emotional temperature, not because you are weak, not because you lack intelligence, not because you are incapable of walking away, but because this pattern is extremely powerful. The uncertainty itself keeps you emotionally invested. The moments of reward after periods of fear make the attachment feel even stronger. The only way to break free is to recognize the pattern clearly, to stop seeing each moment separately and start seeing the entire cycle. Because once you understand the cycle, you can finally stop allowing it to control your emotional life. And leaving this pattern behind is not easy. When you are deeply attached, creating distance from the cycle does not immediately feel like freedom. It can feel like losing something important. It can feel like giving up on someone you love. It can feel like walking away from a person who needs understanding the most. But sometimes choosing yourself is not an act of cruelty. Sometimes choosing yourself is the healthiest form of love. Your need for consistency matters. Your desire for emotional security matters. Wanting communication, reassurance, and closeness does not make you demanding. It does not make you too much. These are normal human needs. You deserve a relationship where both people are willing to participate. Not a perfect relationship, not one without challenges, but one where both people are trying. Someone who notices when they want to disappear and chooses communication instead. Someone who recognizes their patterns and works on them. Someone who is building a connection with you rather than keeping you permanently at a distance that only feels comfortable for them. Now, there is something important I want to make clear. This conversation is not about attacking people with avoidant patterns. Avoidant people are not automatically bad people. They are often people carrying real emotional struggles. Their distancing behavior may hurt others, but it can also create pain inside their own lives. They are not truly winning by keeping everyone at a distance. They may appear calm, they may look unaffected, they may seem completely comfortable being alone. But underneath that appearance, many avoidant people experience a deep conflict. A part of them wants connection. A part of them wants to be understood. A part of them wants to feel close to another person. But they have learned to silence that desire so effectively that sometimes they disconnect from their own needs. There is a difference between being independent and being emotionally disconnected from the need for connection. Independence is healthy, but completely shutting down your desire to be loved and understood can create a hidden loneliness. Many avoidant people only notice that loneliness during quiet moments, when distractions disappear, when there is no work, no activity, no escape, when they are alone with their own thoughts. In those moments, they may feel a sadness they cannot fully explain, a sense that something is missing, despite telling themselves they do not need anyone. Because deep down, most human beings want the same things. They want to feel accepted. They want to belong. They want to be seen. They want to be loved without having to perform. They want safety and connection. The difference is that some people have learned to fear the very thing they deeply desire. But understanding someone's fear does not mean you should sacrifice your own emotional health. Compassion does not require you to stay in a situation that slowly destroys your confidence. You can recognize someone's pain and still decide that your own needs matter too. Both truths can exist at the same time. And now the question becomes, what can you actually do with this understanding? Because awareness alone is not enough. You need action. The first step is to stop trying to overcome their distance by giving more. I know this feels unnatural. When someone pulls away, your instinct may be to prove your love, to show them you care, to remind them of your value. But every time you increase your effort in response to their withdrawal, you may unintentionally strengthen the same pattern. You teach them that distance creates more attention. You show them that pulling back causes you to move closer. And while this may temporarily make them feel safe, it does not create a balanced relationship. A healthy connection cannot be built by one person constantly chasing while the other person controls the level of closeness. Relationships require mutual effort. They require two people showing up, communicating, and choosing each other consistently. And this applies to everyone, including people with avoidant patterns. A person cannot learn the value of connection if they never have to participate in creating it. Real love is not measured by how much one person can tolerate. Real love is created when two people are willing to meet each other halfway.